Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I think we came out with some juice, and I think we came out with some great at-bats against a really good pitcher. Had the lead, kind of let them back in the game, and then we didn't do enough offensively the rest of the way to win.
We got a big month ahead of us. We got some big games ahead of us, and this was a big game for us. It was really important for us to try to win this ball game. I can't fault our kids. They busted as hard as they can, and they battled, and they got themselves where they needed to be. We just didn't finish it up.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. We kick off a brand new week with you here. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, K-Mac, Kevin McCrary, and the state man, Graham Pope. You heard from Chad Holbrook and Jack Leggett there as the baseball season slipping away from both the Tigers and the Gamecocks, both now playing their way out of the NCAA tournament. They have got to make a quick turnaround here in the last few weeks of the season just to get back into strong consideration. I'm not going to say they can't play their way back into it, because certainly they can. They both have big-time opponents ahead of them. But, guys, from this weekend, it doesn't look like either one of these teams can muster enough to beat the better opponents left on their schedule. I mean, Clemson's still got to play Louisville and Florida State. South Carolina's still got to play Texas A&M, LSU, not to mention Auburn, which had a good weekend and is a team that's kind of coming on here down the stretch. So we're looking at a real possibility. It's legitimate that both of these teams, both of them, could be sitting at home.
Maddeningly inconsistent. Now, one of the problems South Carolina has is they still have not found a replacement for Crow. I mean, there's no excuse jumping out ahead of Tennessee and then letting them just explode back on you like that. That was almost just an explosion, like a hand grenade in that sixth inning. And it just – and again, the fielding has opened the door for some of these big innings for the opposition. So the fielding has really hurt South Carolina.
Not a good baseball
Clemson.
team. I mean, Tennessee's not a good baseball team, and they hammered them on Sunday. And, you know, they were struggling even with Will Crow out there, and maybe Crow wasn't healthy to make that case. You know, you just chalk this up, you know, to a season that is, they're not a postseason team to me. I don't see them getting in right now. If they do get in, they're not a team that's going to make any noise. After their Friday starter, you know, Fiore's a bullpen guy that they plugged in, and then they're just doing Johnny Holstaff, who's ever left on Sunday. Let's try to get through it. They don't have enough arms. They have way too many holes in their lineup. Now Max Schrock, who is one of their three or four good hitters on their team, he's out with an Achilles injury. It's just they were due to have a season like this eventually. It's been almost 2 decades. Maybe they're just getting their comeuppance.
Yeah, some might say that season was last year when they lost a regional at home for the first time in a long time.
But they had a good season going into that. I mean, they lost at home in a regional for the first time in a long time, but this is a season where it's just all gone wrong.
You know, if you're South Carolina fans, you look at it and you go, right, bump in the road, it's one season. If you're Clemson fans now, you have to wonder if things are really starting to become routine there. We'll talk about it in a moment. Now, it's great. South Carolina fans can look at this season and think of it maybe as an aberration. Okay, we've had a great run, bound to back up sooner or later. It happens in baseball. Clemson fans, though, you know what you went through last year. You know what Jack Leggett and the team went through last year. Not a real good regular season, just good enough to get into the tournament, then a quick exit from the NCAA tournament. And, going into this season, the appearance was that Dan Radakovich has Jack Leggett on a very short leash. At least that's the outward perception. And now we're seeing a regular season unfolding that's not even as good as last year's regular season record-wise at this point. I mean, they're just battling to stay above 500. And the Tigers are playing themselves into a position of possibly missing the NCAA tournament as well, which, again, last year you could say maybe that was an aberration for Clemson, but now 2 years in a row, is it becoming a trend? And then you worry that maybe the program has hit a point where they can't turn it around. So I really think we're in for a very interesting month of college baseball here through the rest of the regular season and the postseason in terms of league play. Now, Chad Holbrook is on safe ground.
Right.
Ray Tanner is not making a change. Can't say the same thing about Jack Leggett. I hate the fact that we're going to go into the last couple of weeks of the college baseball regular season and into conference tournament play having to speculate about his future because, as we said last year, he really doesn't deserve that based on his Hall of Fame career. But that is going to be the case for Clemson unless they somehow miraculously turn this thing around, get on a hot streak, make a big run, and secure an NCAA tournament spot, and then win some games in the tournament. Otherwise, the speculation will be very strong. And I'll be honest with you, I do believe that Dan Radakovich will make a change if this season ends up in a sour way for Clemson. I'm not saying I don't know anything. I'm just going on the close shave that Jack had last year, so it seems. And I think maybe Radakovich was I'm not thinking for Radakovich. I'm just applying my own line of thought here. He was still relatively new on the scene as Clemson's AD, firing a Hall of Fame baseball coach after one really down season. Might have been a little too soon to do that. So he calmed the waters, accepted the cry of the people who wanted Jack to be retained, but put out some conditions for this year. And we all know what those were because we talked about them on the show. But this season has not gone well for Clemson, not at all. And so I don't know. I mean, my feeling is that now Radakovich can say, okay, I gave you an extra year. I sat back for a year and said, fix it, turn it around. I'll give you a shot. It ain't happening. And so I think he will feel like he's well within his rights to make a change.
Well, I tell you what, that game yesterday, if I may compare it to football, that was reminiscent to South Carolina and Tennessee. That came out of nowhere. Clemson scores a run in the top of the 10th. I'm figuring, okay, they got this game. And then they get the first two out. I was getting ready to turn the radio off. Then I hear hit. And, I mean, just out of nowhere. That's a stunner yesterday. Now, the key point to Dan Radakovich is this. Obviously, if down the road he thinks a change must be made, the hay better be in the barn, because if the hay is not in the barn and you get rid of a Hall of Fame coach.
What's the hay? You mean somebody
already like a wink, because if you don't, people say, well, Clemson's program.
I think he's got his man. I think he's got his man in mind.
That's what I'm saying. So the key point is because if you fire a Hall of Fame coach and you don't have an idea who the next coach is going to be, other coaches are going to look at it. Wait a minute now. Jack Leggett was a Hall of Fame coach. What do you want out of me? So you can scare some people off with that.
I mean, and to kind of go out on his own terms. I hope it's, I feel like we're burying the guy, and it's hard to do because, Corn, we've been around him for a long time, and he's not a bad guy. I know he's gotten under the skin of USC people. He's been a big part of the rivalry and making the Clemson South Carolina rivalry one of the best in college baseball. He's a big reason why. Clemson's been to Omaha 6 times under Jack Leggett. They are still a national brand in baseball. They've just been down. I mean, the bottom line is it's results and what have you done for me lately? Clemson has not been at the standard that Jack Leggett brought them to and held them to. Omaha is the standard at Clemson, and they're not getting there, and they're not competing to get to Omaha. That's a problem. And now you got a new AD that, you had columnists, the biggest columnist in the state, Gene Sapikoff, last year saying that it was time for Leggett to go. That was last year. And now you have another disappointing season. It's going to be hard for him to weather off that storm, I think.
Well, it's kind of difficult when you look at his coaching tree, and he's got, a couple of his top assistants from years ago doing solid things in the SEC in Florida. It's very difficult, and it's hard, and that shows you again, when you lose great people off your staff, it's not easily replenished. It's very tough to have great people and retain them.
All right, just how disappointed are you in the baseball season? 800-956-7266. We're talking from a USC Clemson standpoint. Other teams in the state are doing just fine, like Coastal Carolina back in a tie for first in their division after the weekend, and the College of Charleston, which is looking very good for postseason play. Those are really, in terms of Division I teams, the other teams in the state that are doing extremely well. Newberry's having a good year. Erskine's having a good year in Division II. But besides South Carolina, Clemson in Division I, Coastal Carolina and College of Charleston having the best seasons in the state.
18 out of the last 20, College of Charleston.
800-956-7266. That's our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at sportstalksc. The place on Facebook to find this is South Carolina is Sports Talk Radio Network. Sports Talk Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook, and the website is sportstalksc.com. We'll read some of your comments on Twitter and on our email as well here coming up in just a few minutes, and we'll also take some of your phone calls as well coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Let me touch on a couple of things, and we'll get to your phone calls. Basketball-wise, South Carolina men will get an official visit this week. Tomorrow or Wednesday, it will start. Eric Cobb, he's a 6'10", 280-pound center from Jacksonville who goes to school in Baltimore, a true back-to-the-basket center. And from what I'm gathering, I think South Carolina has a very good shot to land him. May not happen on the visit, but if things go well, I think South Carolina has a very good shot to land him and add him to this recruiting class. They are also scheduled to have in for a visit this week another big man, a 6'9" player, Eric Holloman, who's from Owensboro, Kentucky. He told some media at a tournament over the weekend that he plans on taking an official visit to South Carolina this week as well. So South Carolina, Frank Martin and that staff, they are truly out there turning over every stone that they can, and handing out offers and doing the best they can to revamp the Gamecock roster. Holloman, as I mentioned, out of Owensboro, Kentucky, and he is a guy that had a terrific postseason. I think he led his team to a state championship and was one of the better players. I think he might have been the MVP of their Sweet 16 in Kentucky. We'll give you more details on all that coming up in recruiting. Also, the USC women, they had a nice pickup as Dawn Staley today on her Twitter account announced this. They are getting a transfer from Virginia from one of the best players on that team, a 6'2" Sarah Imavabo. How would you pronounce that? Imavabo? How would you pronounce that?
She's Nigerian.
Yeah. This is a player who is graduating from Virginia.
Maboya
will be eligible right away. Sarah Imovio.
Leading rebound in the ACC last year.
Yeah, she averaged 13 points and 11 rebounds per game last season, and was a 4-year player. 3-year player at Virginia after sitting out her first year. So a big pickup there for Dawn Staley. She'll be eligible right away. We'll be right back. Another big basketball notes. Forward Brandon Ingram has committed to Duke as if they need another stud player. He's from Kingston, North Carolina, a place that UNC has dominated in recruiting. But this is another indication, I believe, that these big-time stud players, they're concerned about North Carolina and the NCAA, and they're skipping North Carolina or just waiting. For example, I think that's playing on the mind of Seventh Woods as well as he contemplates his decision later on this summer. As his father told us last week, one of the things that they are concerned about is the NCAA and how hard they're going to come down on North Carolina. Former Florida player Eli Carter, 6'2" guard who averaged 9 points a game last year, made 43 threes, graduated from college or is graduating. He's going to transfer from Florida. He'll be eligible immediately. I'm telling you, this rule is being abused in so many ways, behind the scenes, under the table. And I got to believe at some point in time they're going to step back and take a look at this and try to reel it in a little bit. All right, to the phones we go, 800-956-7266. By the way, I should give Wofford its due in baseball. Wofford's won 30 games this year. So they're another team having a pretty good year in our state. And they are, in terms of the Southern Conference race, they're in fourth place. So not bad. Wofford also a team that could maybe play its way into the NCAA postseason. We go to Cockett in Columbia, listening to us on the point. Hello, Cockett.
How you doing, man?
Why do you call yourself Speedy? I mean, everybody knows you're Cockett and not Speedy.
Well,
I've seen you run, and you're definitely not Speedy.
But let me explain this to K-Mac, because K-Mac, when it comes to getting hardcore facts and breaking down statistics, I'm gonna put him right up there with CNN. He's a little bit ahead of you, Phil.
Is that I don't know. Calling me CNN, I'm trying to figure out, is that an insult or a compliment? I don't hold CNN in real high regard myself.
If you want to listen to the same story for 28 seconds hours.
Well, K-Mac, when it comes to world news, global statistics and facts, I'll put you up there, and that's a pretty good group to follow. Okay. So, but all it means is all you got to do is look at AC Florida class of 80 to 83. I will subtract for Bob Reynolds, and all you got to do is ask him, do you know a guy named Speedy? And they'll tell you. So that's how the name came from, Speedy.
All right, what's your other point? You got 30 seconds, Speedy. Make it fast.
Okay, my other point is that you look at the basketball, baseball, men's baseball at Kellogg. It's a catastrophe, just like Clemson. It's going to be hard to replace a legend like Kellogg baseball, former coach. And I just think that when you look around, like Wofford, Coastal Carolina, we could go on College of Charleston, they just recruit better.
Well, I don't know if they recruit better. I mean, come on. I mean, South Carolina and Clemson's classes are usually among the best in the country. Other schools make do with what they get, and they do well with it. We'll be right back. Our new poll question at SportsTalkSC.com is, how much longer will Steve Spurrier coach? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, my goodness.
Some people got irritated by that question last weekend. To those people, I say, tough. Get used to it.
They
right?
got irritated
come up
because
every
it's
year.
a serious question.
The poll question is, Chad Holbrook said after Sunday's loss, the Gamecocks don't deserve to make the postseason. His words. Agree or disagree? That's the poll question. 93% so far overwhelmingly agree with what Chad Holbrook had to say. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, our Twitter address, if you haven't signed up for Twitter, to follow us, do so. It's free, at least for now, at SportsTalkSC. Sooner or later, someone's going to start charging for the internet and Twitter. No, it won't be us. It'll be somebody else. Website is sportstalksc.com, and Facebook is Sports Talk.
If that
Radio
deal
Network
would have gone through, they were talking about maybe they charge for everything, talking about Comcast and buying Time Warner
That
cable.
got the old mixer.
What else is going on? Over the weekend, of course, the NBA playoffs continued.
Nice job by the Celtics.
Celtics bowed out with pride yesterday. Went down with a very hard-fought game against Cleveland.
They went down.
We're just a player or two short, but we'll be back. I think we have the
core.
Yeah, I think we have the core. I think we've got good young players. Look, we've only got one player over 25. We've got plenty of draft picks. We've got a lot of money under the cap. I think we're like $27 million to spend on free agencies. We're in great shape with our core. We're not an old, dilapidated, broken down team like the Lakers, for example.
Well, it's interesting.
Every time our star player jumps on the court, he breaks something.
How many Lakers can you name right now? How many Lakers can you name?
What's Kobe going to break next season? Let's see. He's done
probably a couple more records.
The knee. He's
probably
done
a few more records.
Go ahead for the records. Yeah. Sure. Maybe will you win 20 games next year?
Yes.
Will the Lakers win 20 games?
They will win 20 games next year. Lakers are going to make the playoffs.
It was kind of
how many did you win this year?
The Lakers are going to.
How many did you win this year? 21.
Yeah, they had the fourth worst record in the NBA.
I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Well, sometimes you got to get very bad before you get very good.
That's the plan.
That's what we did. We were very bad. Now we're on our way to being very good.
Yeah, but it was interesting what Hubie Brown said about the Celtics. He said it's interesting. Say now the players you have now have gotten you to this level. Now as you get other good players, this is the tough time of the league where you got to look at a player that brought you to this level and say it's time to get off the train. Because
yeah, I mean, you got to get players that can take you to the next level. How many of the players who got you to this point can take you to that next level? I mean, not everybody on the Celtics roster that finished the season is going to be back next year. But look, the Celtics had 23 players come through their team this year. They led the NBA in player turnover. And they, Danny Ainge has showed that he's not afraid to make a deal.
And you
cut a player, add a player, he'll do whatever.
And that's how quickly you could turn it around in the NBA if you make the right move. That's the secret. I mean, the Lakers got to this point because they made some bad moves. They brought in Steve Nash and traded away draft picks. They didn't hire Phil Jackson. They brought in Mike D'Antoni. That chased off Dwight Howard. I mean, that's how you end up bad, and they've never done that.
Chris Paul deal got nixed.
Well, that was, but you can turn it around this summer if the Lakers can go out there and lure in a couple of free agents. If they can lure in a Kevin Love and sign Rondo at a discount, get a top 5 pick to go along with a healthy Randall. I mean, all of a sudden you're not a championship team, but you're a team that can make the playoffs.
I think
that's how quickly you
need
can turn it around.
You need a Rondo working with Kobe.
I think
Kobe and Rondo actually
like each other. I think a viewpoint that was really good for Boston is the fact that through all their travails in making the playoffs, that unnoticed by a lot of people was, when you look at the Coach of the Year voting, who was third? Brad Stevens.
He did a heck of a job. Players like him.
He still gets carded when he goes to a bar, but he can coach.
It's okay. He can buy that bar if he really wants to. All right, 800-956-7266. NBA playoffs roll on. The Hawks are in action tonight, right?
Tonight against New Jersey.
Yeah, and where does that stand?
2-1, Atlanta. Atlanta couldn't hit the side of a barn Saturday. I think they were 5 of 30 from three-point range.
The Celtics couldn't make a shot last night. Couldn't make a free throw. Couldn't make a three-pointer. Deadly combination, but fought back and had it down to 6 points.
I think I said the Celtics would win as many playoff games as the Lakers this year, and they did.
The only surprise,
but we did
right again.
Yeah, the only surprise I've seen so far is, I would not have contemplated a Memphis sweep against Portland, but it looks like it may happen. That's the only surprise.
I would rather have a lottery pick than be swept in the playoffs. I would rather have a lottery pick than be swept in the first round of the playoffs as an 8 seed.
Go back and look. How many teams who have sat in the lottery have turned it around and made it big the next year? Very few.
Well, if you again, it's not just a lottery.
Look how many years Cleveland was in the lottery. They didn't get
signed
good until they got LeBron,
and they
LeBron
traded, but
turned it around.
Well, look at the other guys on their team.
They drafted Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, but they couldn't win with him alone.
No,
they had to wait till they got LeBron back before they became great again.
You can't build
the lottery is not going to be the automatic savior.
No, you have to bring in players too. Nobody
Absolutely.
said no one out there says we're not going to bring in any free agents.
But people who believe just because you're sitting on that stage and you're in the lottery and you're going to get a top 5 pick, the next year you're going to be right there. Unless you get a Jabbar, unless you get a Jordan, unless you get a LeBron, a Bird, a Magic. I mean, there's good players coming out of college. By the college level, they're great players. But is Jabari Parker gonna? What's his name?
Jahlil Okafor.
Yes, Okafor. Well, look at Jabari Parker got hurt. Is Okafor going to step right onto?
Have you watched the Pelicans play this year?
Yeah, but
I mean,
they just made the playoffs.
He changed that franchise.
How many years did it take with Anthony Davis?
3 years.
3 years.
He's one of the best players. I mean, that's what the lottery can do for you. You get a guy like that can change your franchise. You can get that. Now, I don't bring in other players.
I don't think you can automatically assume that within the next year you're going to be in the playoffs, because just look at the teams that are repeatedly back in the lottery.
Well,
you got to
have free agents. And the key point to a free agent is it's not always the top free agent. It's the glue. Those guys who come off the bench in that second quarter, they can maintain a lead and then keep you guys fresh in the third so they can have that closing kick in the fourth quarter. So you see a lot of those good teams, they'll get 1 or 2 great pieces. Watch New Orleans this year. If they're smart, watch them grab a couple of glue guys.
Well, in my lifetime, in my years on earth, the Lakers have only been in the lottery twice. Okay. So once they got Andrew Bynum, and they ended up winning the title a few years later, not because of Andrew Bynum necessarily, but it was who they took. And last year where they got Randall, who got hurt in the first game. And we'll see if they even get a lottery pick this year. They could fall out of that thing next month, depending on how the ping pong balls bounce, and not get a first-round pick, which would be a devastating blow. That's essentially you get nothing. It's like you had the worst season in your franchise history, and
by the way, this is Anthony Davis's 3rd year.
Yeah, so in 3 years, and
but I'm saying,
but that was
he didn't automatically get them to the promised land. It took time, and it took adding some players.
But there are franchises. The Celtics were awful. They went out, made a few trades on draft day. They bring in Kevin Garnett. They bring in Ray Allen. You can't flip the script, and the Celtics were terrible. I mean, and in one night, they had the big 3. And there's certain organizations that can do that. New Orleans isn't one of them. Oklahoma City isn't one of them. The Boston Celtics are one of them. The Los Angeles Lakers are one of them. The Knicks, they could be one of them, but they have an idiot named James Dolan running their organization, and they're terrible.
Well, I think Isaiah Thomas set them back, not decades, centuries.
Who hired him? Dolan. Yeah, he's a common denominator.
They're still trying to dig out.
Phil Jackson's going to cash a few checks, over the next couple of years, and he'll get out.
I'm saying that I like, between you and me, I like where my team is and not being in the lottery, even though we didn't win a game in the series, and we were competitive in all 4 games. But you can you can identify what your weakness is and where you can go to get to that next level.
You can't argue that. The Celtics are in a better place than the Lakers right now, even though they still can't beat the Lakers, but they are in a better place than the Lakers. Definitely. Lakers, they have 2 players on the roster that I want next year.
More wins against you head-to-head, more wins in the playoffs head-to-head.
All before you were born. All before you were born.
Cite all the stats to support my argument. All right, time for the Braves reports here on Sports Talk, starring Mike Morgan, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals by Play It Again Sports off Bower Parkway in Columbia, where you will pay less for more, and by Mattress by Appointment. Real simple. You call and save 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets. 803-530-8549 is the number. Braves back at home finally after a long, unsuccessful road trip. Up a series against the Nationals, also off to a struggling start. Mike, what's going on with the Nationals? 7-12, proving all the experts wrong so far this season.
Yeah, they have a case of what the Braves have had the last couple of years. They're just not hitting. It's kind of common for people to say, well, baseball is all about pitching, and pitching wins championships. Well, if you can't hit, it's pretty hard to win a championship. Obviously, pitching is important. That's not exactly groundbreaking news, but pitching combined with terrible defense is not a great formula either. And the Nationals right now are dead last in the National League in fielding percentage. Think about that, dead last fielding percentage. So you've got all these $75 to $100 million pitchers, and the 9 guys or the 8 guys behind them are not doing anything to help their cause. So when you put it in those terms, all of a sudden pitching and defense is not so good, and then they're just not hitting. I think when you look at the lineup, it's a little misleading. There's a lot of star power, but I don't know if it's that great. You take Bryce Harper, for example, and I like Bryce Harper. I'm not banging on Bryce Harper, but he's not Mike Trout. Okay, I mean there's a difference in those two talent bases. They're missing Anthony Rendon, and nobody else is hitting. So that's the short answer or the long answer to your question, and they'll see if they can right the ship in Atlanta.
Well, one guy who's sad to see the Braves leave Philadelphia, especially the bottom half of their starting staff, is Ryan Howard, who couldn't hit his way out of a paper bag, but suddenly found a home run ball.
It's my fault for calling them
weekend.
hapless Friday. I called them hapless, and that got into the clubhouse, and they played motivated baseball.
That did. K-Mac diatribes are great locker room material for Braves opponents, and this is something that Atlanta's well aware of. Front office, I think, will be contacting you about that, Kevin, and there'll be a phone call shortly to try to fix that situation. But yeah, Howard was actually a Braves killer last year too, so I'm not totally surprised. He's basically a one-dimensional player now. He swings for the fences every at bat. And if he doesn't hit a home run, he strikes out. He doesn't do much defensively. He's ballooned up about 30 pounds. Other than that, he was a bargain at $100 million. Nice job by the Philly front office.
Well, if the Braves, this is interesting because I guess the Braves look like the team we thought they would be on this road trip. So is this a team that's going to be in somewhat a not buyer's market when it gets into the heat of the summer and just wait for those young players to develop down on the farm, or will you see them possibly making moves?
Well, I don't think they're going to make moves for the short term. So if you see them make a move, it'll be a move for either more prospects or young players that they can, again, mold into the new Braves, which will be featured sometime around 2017. So yeah, they're not going to be buyers like they've been in recent years, where you maybe make a move for a guy that is a veteran who you think is the missing piece of the puzzle. If anything, they're going to be taking calls for teams that are looking for that. And even though there's not much left in the way of that situation on the Braves roster, they would certainly be eager to make another move for the future if that opportunity presented itself. All
right, the pitching matchup tonight: left-hander Eric Stoltz, right-hander Doug Fister. Keys here.
Yeah, it's actually Cahill tonight. I know you're. I'm sorry. Okay. You are right. It is. It is Stoltz.
You dare question?
To me, they're almost. They're almost 6 or 1/2 dozen of the other.
Same guy.
They're both bad. You want me to say it? They're both bad. So either way, you hold your breath and just hope for the best. The good news is they don't have to face Scherzer. Scherzer's got a finger injury, so he was supposed to pitch Tuesday night. He's not going to go for the Nationals in this series. But you're still going to see a lot of good pitching. They've got a good bullpen as well. I think it's a very interesting series because Washington has underachieved, and we're still trying to figure what the Braves are all about coming in at 9-9. So it'll be an interesting 3 games at Turner Field.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Good hearing from you, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night. Mike Morgan with our Braves report. The Braves at 9-9, the Nationals at 7-12, and that first pitch tonight coming up a little bit after 7 o'clock, I guess. You know, the Braves media knows they don't give you game time or the TV information. You think they would do that?
Probably 7:05.
Yeah, probably around 7:05. And probably on what, Sports South maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Check them out. Take your guess. We'll be right back. All right, to the recruiting report. Eric Cobb, 6'10", 280 from Jacksonville, goes to school in Baltimore. Going to visit USC officially starting either tomorrow or Wednesday, as Coach told us today. He was once committed to Kansas State, went to Seton Hall unofficially last week, had planned to go to Virginia Commonwealth today, but postponed that because of schoolwork he needed to complete before leaving for the USC visit. He's a true back to the basket post player. His coach, Nick Miles, told us 13 points, 9 rebounds per game. Needs to lose some weight. 280 is a little heavy for him. Needs to get in better shape. When he is in good shape and able to run, the coach says he's a pretty good player, has a lot of moves and good hands and feet and all that. His parents plan to come up from Jacksonville to visit. South Carolina has a very good shot to land him. Also, 6'9" Eric Holman of Owensboro, Kentucky, said at a tournament in Fisher, Indiana over the weekend, he's going to visit USC tomorrow through Thursday officially. Now, right now, he's planning to attend Hargrave Prep in Virginia this fall, build up his slim frame at the advice of some coaches, but he wants to take some official visits before finalizing his plans. He's been to Louisville several times, also hearing from Texas, Xavier, Cincinnati, and Auburn. Frank Martin watched him over the weekend. 6'7" Dikembe Dixon plans to visit USC the weekend of May 15th. He's going to Arkansas the weekend before that. Guard Eli Wright, 2016 class of Owensboro, Kentucky, had an in-home with Clemson over the weekend. He plans visits to Virginia Tech and Miami. USC offered 2017 small forward Cody Pugh. He's from Baltimore. USC also offered 2017 point guard, 5'11" point guard from Philadelphia by the name of, I have to go back and look it up because I did not copy that onto my sheet. Doggone it.
Man.
I did
hate when
everything.
that happens.
His last name is Queen, I can tell you that.
Queen?
No, his last name is Green. Not
Green,
Queen.
okay.
Last name is Green.
Queen Latifah.
I'll have to look up the name in just a moment. But last name is Green. He's a point guard from Philly. Clemson offered 2018 power forward KJ Hines of Phoenix. USC's Dawn Staley announced that 6'2" Sarah Imovio from Nigeria and from the University of Virginia has signed a financial aid agreement to transfer to USC to play her final year. Big-time rebounder, averaged about 11 rebounds per game, tops in the ACC last season, and also averaged
13 points.
About 13 points per game, yes. Football, USC commitment running back C.J. Freeman of Greensboro visited Virginia Tech Saturday for the spring game. Says he remains firm with his Gamecock pledge for now. Also, receiver Kyle Davis, USC commitment. Lawrenceville, Georgia, went to Tennessee for their spring game Saturday. He's committed, but still looking around. Linebacker T.J. Brunson of Richland Northeast visited North Carolina Saturday. Offensive lineman Bryce Matthews of Brentwood, Tennessee, made an unofficial visit to Clemson on Saturday. Clemson is among his offers, and he is part of the Matthews famed football playing family. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Main Street, Columbia. Sports Talk, your sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina, your most talked about sports talk show, most listened to sports talk show, most revered, most despised sports talk show, all in one
Despised?
fuzzy little package.
I think we're loved.
No, we're despised by some.
Our popularity.
But I can accept that. That's the beautiful thing about what we do. I can accept the good with the bad. I can accept the roses. I can accept the darks.
I can't handle it anymore. I'm really, as I grow older, I have a need to be loved. I just want to be loved now. I just want people to like me. I just want people to like me.
Well, good luck with that.
I know. I'm not off to a good start.
I mean, I can speak from firsthand knowledge that you're not an easy person to love.
I agree. I can too.
Much less love. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Let's go to Edgar in Florence for the next call. Edgar, how are you? Welcome into Sports Talk.
Thank you. Phil, a couple of recruiting questions. First off, the McCall kid over at Dillon, the quarterback, is he going to go into his senior year as the number one rated quarterback in the state this year?
Yeah, I would think so. By those who are going to be rating the players, you've got him, you've got Austin Scott at Spartanburg, you've got the quarterback over at Dorman, you've got a good quarterback over at Ashley Ridge, who's getting some recruiting attention, but he is, statistically far and away the number one quarterback in the state. He's, thrown for a ton of yards and touchdowns, and he's run for a lot of yards, and he's won 3 state championships.
Yeah. Secondly, the school up in Greensboro, where Johnny Roscoe is coaching, Northern Guilford.
Northern Guilford.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you know anything about any of their prospects? If you heard a name, would you be able to, say anything about him as far as what kind of prospect he might be?
Well, you talking about C.J. Freeman?
No, does he play at that school?
Yes,
Okay, no, it's a teammate of his. This kid is a rising senior. His last name is Hord, H-O-R-D. He's a small kid. He's a wide receiver and a safety.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been playing quality time starting for him for about 3 years. This will be his 3rd year.
His last name is H-O-R-D, Hord?
Yeah, Hord. Yeah, Tucker Hord.
I've not heard him, have not run across him in recruiting circles at this point.
Okay. I just wondered, he's probably more likely going to be a small college or could maybe be a Wake Forest type of recruit. He's got a good pair of hands and runs good routes.
Okay. I'll keep an eye out for him, but I haven't heard anything on him just yet. Thank you very much. Yeah, Johnny Roscoe has built a powerhouse there at Northern Guilford. I think they've won maybe 3 state championships.
Is there a Southern Guilford?
Probably is. He's done a nice job with a relatively new school. We'll be right back. And we're back at Sports Talk 800-956-7266. Big weekend for Clemson golf. Almost a great weekend. Came so close to winning the ACC Golf Championship, losing in the playoff second hole to Georgia Tech. Coach Larry Penley will join us at the bottom of the hour to talk about his team getting ready for the NCAA regionals. Those bids will be announced a week from today on the Golf Channel in the morning, next Monday morning. And you got to figure South Carolina's got a great chance to win the national championship. Clemson, with its showing at the ACC tournament, got a great chance to win the national championship. It's going to be a lot of fun watching those teams move forward at the NCAA tournaments. Not so much for their baseball teams, as we've been talking about tonight, both coming off disappointing weekends. South Carolina losing 2 out of 3 to Tennessee, a Tennessee team that had been struggling, though Chad Holbrook told us before the weekend series last Thursday night, he respected Tennessee's talent, knew they had some good players, was concerned about how good they could be. And it turned out they were better than the Gamecocks were this past weekend, so they lose 2 out of 3. That means in the SEC East now, the Gamecocks are 9-12. But you have to look at the overall big picture. Remember, there are 14 teams in the SEC. The 2 worst teams do not go to Hoover. And then the next 12, the 4 bottom teams will play in a doubleheader on Tuesday, with the 2 winners advancing to the main draw.
Single elimination.
Single elimination, yeah. So right now, South Carolina with 9 league wins puts them in a precarious position because they're only Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi State behind them in terms of SEC wins. And the Gamecocks still have some tough series coming up. They got to play Auburn, which has now won 29 games, 5 in a row. They're 10-11 in league play. They've got Auburn coming up in Columbia this weekend, a series they must win. You're at that point now where it's must-win time. And then they finish up, of course, with LSU and Texas A&M, the 2 best teams in the West and arguably in the league, with Vanderbilt in there as well. Florida's 13-8. Missouri has lost 4 in a row and has dropped to 12-9. In the West, LSU is 14-6. A&M is 13-7. Arkansas is 11-10. And Auburn, like I said, 5 in a row, the hottest team in the league right now. They're up to 10-11 in league play. Clemson, well, Tigers sit in 3rd place in the Atlantic at 12-11 after losing 2 out of 3 at Georgia Tech. Really, it was a series the Tigers, they could have won all 3. Now, they won that one game. Didn't they lose a close game on – I know they lost a close game yesterday. Had the lead going to the bottom of the 10th, 2 outs. Georgia Tech scores 2 runs with 2 outs. I'm thinking Friday night was a close loss as well, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Well, they had an early lead, and Crownover only gave up 1 run earned, and they gave up an unearned run, and then Georgia Tech scored late to
win that one.
there.
And then Clemson blew them out on Saturday. So it was – you go back and look at it, you could say it's a series they could have swept. The Tigers only 23-21, 2 games over 500.
Look how many 1-run losses they have this year. It's astounding how many times they've lost by a run. And it's been one of those years. It's just been one of those years for Clemson. It's been one of those years for South Carolina. It's strange. We're all spoiled. We just expect, to be in Omaha or be at a super regional because that's the way it's been every year for 2 decades.
Tigers are 81 in the RPI. This isn't the official RPI, which comes out tomorrow, but they're 81 in the RPI. And, that's you make a good point. I mean, they've lost, I could sit here and count them up. Or I could look at their stats. They've lost a bunch of 1-run games this season.
Had 2-run games for that. That game you were talking about on Friday was 4-2 Georgia Tech.
Yeah. And Clemson was in it late. And again, they could have come out of the
Georgia Tech
weekend.
scored 3 times in the 8th in that game, as I recall, to win it. Clemson was cruising right along. Then Crownover came out, and Georgia Tech played at 3 in the bottom of the 8th and turned a 2-1 deficit.
They're probably glad to see Crownover come out of the game.
Well, let's see. I'm just going back here looking very quickly. That Georgia Tech loss was 1 run. They lost a 1-run game to Boston College. They lost a 1-run game to Charleston Southern, a 1-run game to North Carolina, a 1-run game to Presbyterian. Yeah, I mean, it's their losses sprinkled with 1-run defeats. There's one to Virginia Tech, 4-3. But, in baseball, we all know 1 run could be the same thing as 10 runs because all it takes is a 1-run difference.
But the point is, what 1 run as opposed to 10 runs, that's one play. That's one guy getting out of an inning, putting a ball over the fence, splitting a gap. That's the difference between Clemson having 30 wins right now and having 23 wins.
Or an error, unearned run.
Right, exactly.
Conversely, now you could say, well, what about their 1-run wins? And, they have some of those as well. You kind of feel like it evens out over the length of the season. The bottom line is for them right now, they're only 2 games over 500, and that's not good. That's not good at this stage of the season. 12-11 in league play, 3rd place in their division, and they have Louisville coming in for 3 starting on Saturday. Louisville 34-10. They've won 3 in a row. They're 19-2 in league play. Florida State, seeing Clemson has 3 with Louisville, 3 with Florida State still to play. Must-win series for the Tigers. If not, they're going to be sinking well under 500, both in the league and in the overall record.
And this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is when you sort of want to flush a little bit of what you've done so far because this is exam week at Clemson. So, maybe getting away from it from a couple of days. Of course, they'll be practicing. But maybe from a mental standpoint, that'll help them out.
Hey, you know what? They still have to go to Wofford. We talked about Wofford being an improved team. They got to go to Wofford. They got College of Charleston coming up their way. They got Georgia Southern. And then a game at Furman, and Furman has proved to be very tough. So there is really, if you're Clemson, their remaining schedule, there is not an easy game left for them.
No.
There is not an easy game left the rest of the way. So they have their work cut out for them. As far as the Big South race goes, Coastal Carolina back in first in the South Division at 14-4, ahead of Winthrop at 10-8. Actually, Winthrop, another team having a pretty good year, 32-14 overall. Their RPI is 73. Coastal's is 29. They're tied for the best record overall in the Big South at 14-4. Charleston Southern's 9-9 in the league and 20-22 overall. Southern Conference, I mentioned Wofford. They're tied for 3rd. RPI is 161, though. 8-6 in the league and 30-15 overall. They're the best of the state's teams in the Southern Conference. Furman is 7th, 7-8 in league play. Charleston continuing to lead its league with an RPI of 25. Cougars are 13-2, 29-9 overall. Wilmington's 11-1, 28-9 overall. And Upstate is last in the Atlantic Sun, record of 4-11, 14-31 overall. So Charleston's looking pretty good. We talked with Monty Lee last week, talked about the possibility of hosting a regional, which is not out of the question for them. They are going to be hosting their league tournament, and they've got William and Mary coming up, then Clemson, then a 3-game home series against Wilmington, which will be huge, of course, in deciding the regular season champion there. But then they'll all get together at Patriots Point to play the league.
And the College of Charleston is ranked 19th in the latest Baseball America poll. By the way, I knew College of Charleston was good over the weekend for one reason, and one reason only. They go into the Furman series. They sweep Furman. They're 18 out of the last 20. And even Corn, even your curse, couldn't affect them. That's how I know how strong that Monty Lee's team is.
Yeah. I'm glad that we didn't bring them down. You mentioned the baseball rankings. Baseball America, like you said, College of Charleston is 20 by Baseball America this week. Only team in the state ranked. LSU is 1, Texas A&M is 2, and UCLA is 3. Louisville is 4, and TCU is 5. In collegiate baseball, Charleston's number 20. LSU is number 1 there, and UCLA is number 2. Back in a moment. Larry Penley coming up at the bottom of the hour to join us here on Sports Talk. We'll catch up with him about the Tigers golf team going into postseason play after finishing in a playoff with Georgia Tech yesterday, coming in second in the ACC championship. By the way, folks, at the Ocean Course, the PGA of America, Kiowa Island Resort, a major golf news announcement on Friday. It's going to be at the Ocean
emphasis
Course.
on major.
That's what they say.
Major
golf news announcement. Among the folks who are going to be there: Nikki Haley, Pete Dye, Roger Warren, who's the president of Kiowa Island Golf Resort. Last time they had a big announcement, they were going to have the PGA Championship.
Yeah, maybe they'll. I mean, if something like that, you got to think it's either a men's or women's major.
I'm thinking it might be the PGA Senior.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
it probably wouldn't be.
No. The Charleston papers got it. PGA Championship returning to Kiowa.
In 2021.
2021. Wow, how about that? This is breaking this afternoon. I'm glad I took a look over at the Charleston paper. PGA Championship returning to Kiowa's Ocean Course in 2021.
Probably hunting. As Nicholas is by then, I would imagine probably surpassing him.
Will he have won another major?
Well, I'll tell you. How many will your boy from Augusta have by then that you think is not a very good?
From Augusta,
the guy that just won the Masters.
Who, Spieth?
Spieth.
You want Spieth?
Yeah,
he's from Texas.
Yeah, well, he won at Augusta.
Yeah,
he'll from Augusta, Georgia.
He'll probably have in 2021, 6 years from now, he'll probably have 5. I mean, if he plays at the level he's been
barring
playing.
injury.
Yeah, barring injury, barring
marriage.
Getting married. Yeah, all the things that mess with your golf game. Tommy Braswell's got the story in the Charleston paper. He wrote this about 5 o'clock. PGA Championship will return to the Ocean Course.
That's good.
In 2021. The Post and Courier has confirmed. The Ocean Course hosted in 2012. I wonder what they're going to do. I mean, what are they going to do to improve the traffic situation?
Well, I'm about to ask you the same. What is unique where they had to just bus people in because it's one highway in?
There's 2 lanes, one lane going each way.
Yeah, right.
Now, there was some talk about building a bridge, but people, don't want to do that. They want to preserve beauty and the pristineness of the area and all the environmental impact of building a bridge and all that.
It's got to do the shuttle thing. I mean, that's just the way it works.
There was a massive traffic jam that Saturday, rainstorm, 40,000 attending the event, all trying to depart at the same time. I remember that it was raining cats and dogs. 2012 tournament had an estimated economic impact of $193 million, including $75 million of media exposure. Yeah, it's big. That is big for the state. All right. So the Post and Courier breaking the news that the PGA Championship will be going back to the Ocean Course in 2021. I guarantee you one thing, the course will still be a little devil. And we're back on Sports Talk. Phil Kornbluth, McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes, all with you from downtown Columbia. We welcome into the program Clemson golf coach Larry Penley. Tigers coming off, almost a championship day in North Carolina yesterday in the ACC tournament, losing in a playoff on the second hole to Georgia Tech. Coach, congratulations. Great run over the weekend. Just how close you guys come to pulling that thing out yesterday?
Well, I'm not sure you can get any closer than that, Phil. I think it's about as close as it gets. We played solid all week. First round was good. Second round was good. It was not a really good course for Florida State. They got a bunch of bombers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can play small ball and compete on that golf course. You got the short irons, the middle irons. And we just kept hanging in there. We kept making putts. And next thing you know, we're playing good the last day. And I think we get the lead. I never looked at the leaderboard until about 15 or 16, but we were up a little bit, and then we made a few bogeys, and then I think Georgia Tech let us back in it a little bit, and then we made 3 birdies on 18 to tie, and then we go into this darn playoff, which was pretty crazy. We had our chances in the playoff. The first playoff hole, we go to 18, which is a dog leg left, reachable par 5. We've got 3 guys within 20 yards of the green, and if we get one of them up and down, we win. And we just didn't do it, and we let Georgia Tech back in the game. We go back and play the same hole again, and they make 4 birdies, so game's over. But it was great. I was proud of them. They played great. I mean, we really played a phenomenal 3 rounds of golf. And, we'll just have to take positives from it and go on to postseason.
Well, you've had a great year. When you go back and look, you were second a couple of weeks ago up at Yale. You had another second back in March. You had a 5th in November, a 5th in September. You've had a lot of very strong finishes this year, not to mention what you did at the ACC tournament. Does this bode well for you moving forward into the NCAAs?
Well, I think it ought to give us a lot of confidence. That's the first time this year that we've seen Florida State. And here's a team in our conference that's ranked number 1, consensus number 1. I don't think they've lost a tournament since about late October of the fall. I know they won 6 in a row.
Wow.
Coming into the ACC championship, and we ended up beating them by a shot. Georgia Tech owns the Old North State Club. I think that was their 6th title in the last 7 years at that golf course. But it shouldn't do anything but give us confidence. We've grinded and grinded and grinded, and we've got good players. Nobody really has stood out as a number 1 player. Somebody that goes out and dominates the tournament, like Matt Neesmith from South Carolina. We don't have those kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
We're just a little more consistent, maybe a little more solid. But we ought to feel really good about going into the regionals.
Well, Billy Kennerly, what a great tournament he had in the ACC. Had a low round of 66, and he's had other low rounds this year. He's had a 65. Is he like you said, you don't have a number 1, but is he kind of the guy that you are hooking your guys up to and kind of following his lead going into the NCAA?
Well, he is our number 1 player, and he's our senior captain. He's my only senior. He's done a phenomenal job now for 4 years. He just does everything right.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make mistakes. He's not the longest hitter by any stretch, but he's rarely out in the middle of the fairway. He gives himself a lot of chances, and he's a great putter. And he's really good. He's a confidence builder for the rest of the guys. And we've really looked up to Billy, really put a lot on Billy, and he has responded in a great fashion.
Looking ahead to the regionals announcement coming up next Monday morning, do you have any kind of feel where they're going to put you?
No, I haven't seen the latest ranking yet in GolfStat. Whenever that comes out, I'll have a little better feel. We were at Yale the weekend before the ACC championship, so I'm kind of hoping we go back to Yale. I think we finished 2nd there, although Wake Forest just dominated the field that week.
Mm-hmm.
I felt really good about the way our guys handled that golf course. It's a real quirky Seth Rayner, a lot of blind shots. It's not real long, and that's kind of in our wheelhouse. You know, that's more where we can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the regions I know absolutely nothing about except for Gold Mountain out in Washington. We have played there before and done well there. Lubbock, Texas, out of Texas Tech, I don't know anything about. Indiana, I do not. Chapel Hill, I know is a really good Fazio golf course that I think would be pretty good, just because we don't have to fly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's always good.
What
but
about,
if, you know, we'll go wherever we go. We'll have to play well for sure.
What about moving ahead, assuming you can make it to the Nationals down in Bradenton, Florida at Concession? How does that course fit your team?
I've never seen it. I have not seen that golf course. I know they've played tournaments there. I have not seen that golf course. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Bermuda greens, I don't think that bothers us at all. I think our guys actually might even put better on Bermuda. I don't think it's a very long, demanding golf course. If a lot of strategy is involved, then I think it would be more to our advantage. But man, I really don't know anything about it, and I would love to be there and try to figure that golf course out.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to have that chance to play for the national championship. I would think that you got to like your chances. I would think Coach McDonald over at South Carolina likes their chances for going deep in the tournament as well. We could have the two of you, and who knows, maybe somebody else from the state popping in there too and giving it a nice run. God,
that'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I've been so impressed with South Carolina's team. Bill's done a great job, and he's got tremendous players. They were my pick to win the SEC, and Matt Neesmith doing what he did was fantastic. You know, I would love for both of our teams to get into the match play and you know, just prove to the state of South Carolina just how great golf is in our state, and a great opportunity for both of us.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, how about the news coming out this afternoon that 2021, the PGA Championship, is going back to the Ocean Course?
Wow. How about that?
Did you not know that?
Well, I think they did such a great job with the last one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the course was in such good shape, and that new grass, you know, that new I can't think of the name of it, but it's that saltwater resistant grass was so good. I know Rory liked it a lot. But,
yeah.
You know, it's great for golf in the state of South Carolina. Anytime the PGA Tour comes to us, you know, it's always good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that. It's only 6 years down the road. It'll be here before you know it.
Absolutely. I hope I'm still coaching.
You'll still be you'll be shining up a few more ACC and national championship trophies between now and then.
Well, if we can figure out a way to beat Georgia Tech, I think we can do it.
Hey, great talking to you, and we'll catch up with you during the regionals and the nationals and everything else, and hope you have a nice long run at it.
Well, I appreciate it, Phil, and it's always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you, man.
Same here. Thank you, Larry. All right, Larry Penley, Clemson golf coach. Tigers having we've talked a lot about South Carolina, and justifiably so. The Gamecocks have been highly ranked all year. They've had a phenomenal year, but you go back and look at what Clemson's done, guys, and they've had a really good, very solid year as well. And I mentioned all the high finishes that they've had this year, and Larry Penley's done another great job. And your hometown boy, K-Mac, Cody Provo, having a good year. Stroke average for him, 71.85. What's your stroke average?
A lot higher than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mine is too. Billy Kennerly, 71.06. I mean, the last guy on their list here at Clemson, Hayden Garrett, stroke average of 76. You know that I would literally kill for a 76? You'd
murder somebody.
I would murder.
You'd take somebody's life.
For a 76, I would literally cut off an arm and maybe
then
a
you
leg.
wouldn't be able to,
maybe I should say figuratively speaking. Literally might be a little bit too strong. But I'd love to have a 76 one day. I would be a very happy. I'd like to do it legally. I mean, I've broken 80 before, but I can't really say it was legal.
Foot wedge was active that day.
Thanks again to Larry Penley for joining us here on Sports Talk. Speaking of golf, the bids for the NCAA women's tournament went out this evening. The East Regional will be played at NC State. Number 1 seed is South Carolina, followed by Louisiana Tech, Mississippi State, Northwestern, and Florida. Furman's your number 7 seed. Your number 13 seed is Coastal Carolina. Your number 15 seed is the College of Charleston. USC women having a great season as well, highly ranked and going to be the number 1 seed. Not really sure. I think, as Bill McDonald's told us before, the only advantage to being a high seed in a golf tournament is just your time that you tee off. I guess you get a better tee time, you're a higher seed,
early
I guess.
morning.
Well, I don't know what's considered. Usually the early morning is considered a better tee time because the conditions are calmer. But if you're a late sleeper, you don't like getting up. I don't like early morning golf. It doesn't fit my system. I like teeing off about noon after a hearty lunch and, getting my round in 4 hours, no interruptions, nobody slowing you down, get out of my way, playing through while we're young, the whole deal. Then having a nice cold beverage after a nice round, and then going on about my business.
Well, see, I think my point is, I think if you start off early, the pressure's off. You have to go to bed a little bit earlier. You get up earlier, eat breakfast, and then you relax, and then you play, and you watch other people just try to beat your score the rest of the thing.
Is that how it works? When's the last time you picked up a golf club, Pro?
Oh, goodness. It's been about 5 years.
Is that right? What'd you shoot last time you played?
I didn't count.
It's, listen, I don't like to brag, but I do consider myself the premier media golfer in the state, sports media golfer.
You consider yourself a lot of things that you aren't, though. So
well, that's okay.
The Cowboys also consider themselves America's team.
You've probably never heard this saying before, K-Mac. It's an age-old saying. It ain't bragging if you can back it up. Okay. Just remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Duly noted.
The Southern Conference Baseball Awards for the week, Wofford outfielder James Plaisted and Furman right-hander Matthew Quarles. They are the player and pitcher of the week. Plaisted, P-L-A-I-S-T-E-D. Not to be confused with plasted, but Plaisted. You ever been plasted before, K-Mac?
Have not.
Yeah.
Been plastered.
Yeah, that too. And Division II, Southeast Regional rankings this week. USC Aiken is number 7, Newberry is number 9, and Erskine is number 10. By the way, I have to correct myself. I did make a mistake. I know it shocks a lot of you when that happens, but there was an error in my previous rendition of the baseball rankings. I had the week-old Baseball America ranking. Yeah. So actually, College of Charleston is number 19 this week at 32-9. And LSU is 1, UCLA is 2, A&M is 3, Louisville is 4, TCU is 5, Baseball America. Vandy, Arizona State, Illinois, Florida State, and Florida round out your top 10. North Carolina has worked its way back into the ranking. They are a team in the ACC that's gotten hot here of late. They had a 5-0 week, 29-15 overall. And Arkansas had a good week. They're back in the ranking as well. So that is the corrected Baseball America poll. If you want to join us here in the next couple of minutes, we got some time, 800-956-7266. K-Mac, what are people talking about on our Twitter feed at Sports Talk SC? Are people complaining about baseball? Or worse than that, are people just sort of signing off about baseball?
Well, the chatter has gone down a little bit. I noticed we've had some comments on the website after the South Carolina series loss at Tennessee. But the Rubber Chickens tweeting in a response to the poll question, Chad Holbrook said after Sunday's loss, the Gamecocks don't deserve to make the postseason. Agree or disagree? Rubber Chickens says unless there's a baseball NIT, then no.
Thank goodness there isn't. What else?
Here's somebody talking about, I'm assuming, Dabo Sweeney. This is going back to your last week's poll questions. People are still chiming in on it. As a Dab Dumb would make up some ridiculous lie that's unbelievable. I'll go with 40 more years to follow that trend. Steve Spurrier is going to coach 40 more years, so he would be 110 and coaching on the sideline.
I think he will have caught Bear Bryant by then as the winningest coach in SEC history.
Yeah, 40 years. You know, he'd have to win, 5 games a year, 40 years.
He'll catch McKissick by then.
I don't know that he would. I think McKissick will still be coaching in 40 years. Anything else?
That's it. You know, people retweeting the recruiting stuff. It's recruiting season now. I think everybody's just focused on recruiting now that baseball season's pretty much over.
All right, let's update what's happening in baseball this evening. Washington and the Braves, they are 1-1. Bottom of the third. What's happened in that game so far, Pro?
Well, the Braves scored first. I think Freddie Freeman with an RBI single. Washington looked like Stokes was going to get out of the inning. It was a runner on third with one out. He got a sharp ground to the third. They held the runner on the first 2 out, and then he promptly hung a curveball, and that ended up with a double, and Washington has tied it at 1-1.
Mets and Miami scoreless in the fourth. Milwaukee trailing Cincinnati 4-0 in the third. Yankees and Rays scoreless in the third. Toronto 5-2 on Boston in the fourth. Kansas City and Cleveland 2-2 in the sixth. White Sox and Baltimore postponed because of the unrest in Baltimore. San Francisco and the Dodgers tonight. Looking forward to that. You lost a starting pitcher there, K-Mac.
Yeah, and they are a little banged up, and they're hoping to get one of their guys back soon in Ryu, but their closer's out. McCarthy was a big get for them, and they have
Didn't they
The
just
Giants.
put the outfielder on the DL too?
Puig is on the disabled list, and their replacement closer Peralta also on the disabled list now. So
something about being in Los Angeles, you just can't stay healthy. It must be that nightlife.
I tell you what, one of the things I have to do is I got to bone up on the replay system in baseball, because yesterday I can't remember who the hitter was for the Braves in the top of the 9th inning, but he swung at a pitch and he fouled it back, and the catcher said, "I got it," held on to it, strike 3. Umpire, look at the replay. It skipped the dirt and he scooped it, but apparently that's not reviewable. And I thought everything was reviewable, especially down in the late innings. But apparently, it's not strike 3. He goes out and gets another strike, because he foul tipped it, and he foul tipped it, and they said it was strike 3. But you could clearly see that the guy scooped it. But you could only see it in super slow motion where the dirt kicked up, because he was quick with stabbing it with the webbing of the catcher's mitt. But apparently that was not reviewable, and Freddie Gonzalez stepped toward the dugout, and umpire looked at him and said,
A-Rod's about to catch old Willie. Might happen tonight.
And the Yankees won't do a thing to celebrate it.
I am sick of the Yankees management. Pay the man his $6 million. This team is overachieving. We've got a chance. You're going to screw it up. A-Rod is being a good citizen and a good employee.
They don't want to pay him the marketing.
Pay him the $6 million. You sign the contract, and that you got to live with it.
They say it's not marketable to have a tainted record. That's what they're saying. It's not they don't want to market it. If they thought they could make money off of it, they would.
That'll do it. We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk. Have a good night.